And now, without any further delay, let's begin today's event, sponsored by Mitek and hosted by American Banker. I'd like to introduce your moderator for today, and that is Michael Sisk. Mike, with that, you have the floor.
Thanks very much, Tanya, and I would like to welcome the audience once again. We are grateful that you've chosen to share some of your day with us. We know your time is valuable, and for the next 60 minutes or so, we will make every effort to make every minute count. And also, thank you very much for hanging with us for a few minutes here while we sorted through a few technical issues on our side, but it will be worth it. Once again, our topic today is making mobile account opening operational. And my name is Michael Sisk. I'll be your moderator today. I've been a New York-based journalist for about 15 years, and I've had stints as investor editor at Red Herring and editor-at-large at American Banker. My articles have appeared in Barron's, Crane's New York Business, Institutional Investor, Strategy in Business and Worth, and I've co-written and edited a couple of books. The most recent was Merge Ahead, Mastering the 5 Enduring Trends of Artful M&A. However, more important than my background are the backgrounds of the two excellent speakers that we have with us today, and I would like to introduce them both to you now. The first is Alex Johnson. He is the Senior Analyst for Mercator Advisory Group's Credit Advisory Service, covering consumer and small business credit cards, alternative lending products, and other pay-later offerings. Alex has over 10 years of experience working with the largest credit issuers and merchant acquirers in the world. He has conducted in-depth studies on new lending technologies, developed partnerships between established payment providers and fintech startups, and published thought leadership in leading industry publications, including American Banker, Collections and Credit Risk, and the Financial Brand. Before joining Mercator Advisory Group, Alex worked for Zoot Enterprises, a leading provider of credit decisioning technology. During his time at Zoot, Alex served in a variety of different roles, including product marketing and strategic alliances. He was responsible for go-to-market planning, market research, and new solution prototyping. Alex holds a BS in secondary education from Montana State University. We are very, very pleased to have Alex with us today. And also pleased to have Sarah Clark, who is VP Product at Mitek. Sarah directs product strategy and roadmap for Mitek's mobile capture and computer vision platform and suite of products, including mobile deposit, the market-leading MySnap SDK, SDK S, and the Photo Fill and Photo Verify product lines, removing friction from mobile customer acquisition while transforming mobile identity verification. Sarah has over 17 years of experience building strategic planning, product management, and user experience teams at innovative software companies and leading the development of platform, software as a service, and mobile products. Prior to joining Mitek in 2013, she held leadership roles in fintech, e-commerce, and ad serving, and is a graduate of Duke University. So also very, very pleased to have Sarah with us today. And just before we jump into the kind of real meat of the time we have together, a few housekeeping things that Tanya mentioned at the top of the hour. We do have time at the end, usually about 10 minutes for Q&A. You don't have to wait until the end to put your questions in. You can put those questions in as they occur to you throughout the hour. We encourage you to do that, so as the Spirit moves you, please ask away. If for some reason we don't get to your question in the time that we have together today, we will follow up. So if you're not, your voice will be heard. Please ask anything you would like. And we also have a couple polls today, and they're quick, they're painless. We also share the results with everyone here. It's a nice way, I think, for everyone to sort of see where everyone else stands on this issue that we've come to discuss together today. And so I always encourage 100% participation if at all possible. And as you see, actually, this is the first of our two polls that's up right now. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just read the question, I'll read the possible answers, and if in that time you guys could just make your selection, I will then share it with everyone, and we'll be off to the races here. So is your site optimized for mobile? Yes, it is. No, but we plan to be before the end of this year. No, but it's on the roadmap for 2016. Or no, and we have no plans to optimize for mobile. So I'm guessing there won't be. I will just wait a moment or two more here, and then I'll share results with everyone. And why don't we go ahead and share results? Yep, okay, good. So 57% said yes, and what's about 25% say it's on the roadmap for 2016. So interesting. Thank you all for sharing. And as promised, now I will stop speaking and turn things over to Alex. Alex, you have the floor.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike, and welcome everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. Our topic is an excellent one, how to make mobile account opening operational. We'll be tackling this from a couple of different angles. First, we want to look at kind of the broad question of why as an industry are we moving towards mobile account opening, and then dig into the discussion around why it's so challenging to make mobile account opening operational, and then finally how we can overcome some of those challenges and implement some best practices that we're seeing in the market. And at that point, I will hand it over to Sarah at Mitek to bring us home. So to dive into our discussion, the first question we need to answer is why mobile account opening? And hopefully this is a question that many of us on the phone have already answered for ourselves, but to provide a little bit of background and industry trends, if we start at a very high level, this data is from a presentation by a woman named Mary Meeker who works for a venture capital firm. She does an annual State of the Internet presentation that's spectacular, and from it I've gathered 4 key trends that I think are really driving this general shift in the market. None of these should be a surprise to anyone on the phone, but it's definitely worth reiterating that these are the things that are moving us in this direction. The first 2 up there really tell us that in the United States, a greater and greater portion of consumers now have access to the Internet. And perhaps more importantly, for a majority of those consumers, today they are accessing the Internet through mobile devices. And this is a very important development because not only do they have access to the Internet, but with a mobile device, they have access whenever and wherever they want. And studies that have been done on consumers, particularly on millennials, tell us that consumers today really don't like not having their phones with them. Even at night, they want that phone sitting right next to them in case the urge strikes to do something in an online fashion. Now, because of this ubiquity of Internet access granted through mobile devices, we're seeing a very strong shift in terms of commerce behavior. Obviously, e-commerce is a growing percentage of total retail sales in the United States. And as you can see, it's risen from about 1% at the turn of this millennium to almost 10% last year. And that is expected to continue to increase. So there's this general shift towards wanting to purchase products or at least research products in an online fashion. Finally, we're seeing that companies across all industries are really shifting their acquisition strategies and their sales and marketing and advertising dollars into these new digital channels. Again, from the presentation from Mary Meeker, we see that last year nearly 50% of people's time was spent consuming advertising in digital channels. So of all the advertising that consumers saw last year, nearly 50% of that was seen on some type of mobile device. And that really tells us that that's where a lot of the consumer attention is, and thus that's where companies' acquisition efforts need to shift. So if we drill into this and look at the financial industry specifically, we see that these same trends really hold true. As you'll notice, this is a snapshot of the search volume for the term credit card in Google, and as you'll see, it's risen very steadily over the past 10 years. And what this tells us, in conjunction with a number of other data points, is that consumers are really starting their shopping process for financial products online. And they're starting in the same place, by and large, that they start their search for anything else, which is in Google. And really this has represented a major shift in the way that consumers are shopping for products, but also in the way that financial institutions now need to advertise to consumers. So if we play this argument out a little bit further and look at what results a consumer will see when they type credit card into Google, what we see is that there are a lot more results that are coming up in the Google search results that don't necessarily point directly to a financial institution's website. There is a lot more competition for consumers' attention when they're shopping for financial products, whether that's Google providing information directly in the search results or a third-party website like creditcards.com or NerdWallet. There's this profusion of aggregation services that help consumers find the product that they're looking for. And this has really ramped up the level of competition that traditional financial institutions have when trying to compete for the consumer's attention and the right to guide them to the appropriate financial product. All of this is really borne out by financial institutions changing advertising and acquisition focus. This is some data from eMarketer that tells us that between 2013 out to 2019, FI's digital ad spend is projected to almost double from $5 billion in 2013 to about $10 billion by 2019. And what this tells us is, much like all the other companies in a variety of different industries that are reacting to these trends, FIs are also reacting by shifting a lot of their advertising spend and a lot of their acquisition focus to these digital channels because we want to capture consumers' attention where they are. Now, all of this can be summed up nicely by the results from Mercator's latest customer monitor survey that tells us that of all the consumers who applied for credit cards online as a channel, whether that was online on a laptop or on a smartphone or on a tablet, online in some fashion or another played a role in almost all of those customers' acquisition behavior. So whether it was them clicking on a link in an email or responding to a direct mail ad that they received and then going online to complete the application, online was a common denominator across many of the new applications that financial institutions are starting to see. So to sum up, we are doing a good job as an industry, I think, in moving towards these digital channels from a sales and an acquisition standpoint. We're starting to drive volume. We are starting to really shift our advertising focus to be where it should be in relation to where consumers are spending their time today. And I think this can really be summed up by this quote from Mary Meeker's most recent presentation, which says the consumer's expectation that they can get what they want with ease and speed will continue to rise. So at no point in the future is it going to become acceptable for companies that are looking to deliver products or services to not enable the easiest and fastest way for their customers to get those products and services. The problem with this is that according to the Federal Reserve, only about 26% of financial institutions in the United States offer or plan to offer their customers the ability to open an account using a mobile device. So despite all of the efforts that we have made as an industry to shift our acquisition focus into these digital channels, 75% of institutions in the U.S. are not enabling their customer to purchase their products and services in the easiest and fastest way that is possible today, which is through a mobile device. So this is really the challenge that we're trying to solve. And in order to do that, we first need to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is it that it's so difficult to implement a streamlined and very pleasing experience for mobile account opening? What is it that's standing in our way? And really the answer is that it's complicated. And it's kind of a funny answer to give, but if we look kind of behind the curtain at the technology infrastructure that's in place at many financial institutions today, it's a very, very complex infrastructure. The graphic that we have up here is sort of a hypothetical depiction of what I think a lot of banks' core technology and legacy technology infrastructure looks like. And there's a couple of characteristics about this that make it very difficult to implement new processes. The most important factor is that these legacy technology infrastructures that are in place today are, generally speaking, quite old. I've spoken to banks, and they're legacy technology will range in age from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 to even 30 years old. And when you get up to the upper range of that estimate, it gets a little bit scary because you realize that some of the technology that's in place that your customers are interacting with is actually older than the customers that you're interacting with. And so if your goal is to acquire digital savvy millennial customers who are the next great prime banking customer segment, it's a challenge with this technology that is very old and oftentimes very inflexible. The other thing that contributes to the inflexibility of a lot of this legacy technology and the processes that are wrapped around it is that they're very siloed. And as we have represented in here, different technology stacks and oftentimes different organizational constructs and even profit and loss responsibilities will be split up across credit card, deposits, wealth management, installment loans, home lending. Many different product areas at a bank are very, very siloed, and they all have their different technology stacks. This makes it extremely difficult to implement a cohesive, simple process for a customer to come in through a mobile device and apply for any of those products in a real-time fashion. Now, I think in a lot of cases for financial institutions who've come to the recognition that their legacy technology infrastructure, that is also, by the way, very heavily regulated and very much subject to compliance and security review, which can slow down a lot of the innovation that's in place today, a lot of these banks have responded to that by saying, okay, if we can't necessarily fix the underlying problem, let's at least try to improve the look and feel of our digital channels. And I have a screenshot here from the recent homepage redesign from JP Morgan Chase. And as you can see, it's a fantastic redesign. Strictly speaking, from a look and feel and a design standpoint, they have invested a tremendous amount of money in really redesigning and simplifying their front-end channels in their digital channels. And this has produced great results for many financial institutions who have chosen to make these investments. However, I think it's very important to note that merely having a beautifully designed mobile app or website is really only solving the first part of the problem, and arguably the easiest part of the problem. In order to deliver the experience that customers want, which remember is ease and speed, you really need to go a little bit further and actually dig in underneath the covers and revamp a lot of the legacy technology that's holding us back. If all you're doing is accepting applications for products through a beautifully designed mobile interface, but then not actually completing the entire process in real time and enabling the customer to actually get what they want, then you're not actually delivering mobile account opening. Now, I think it's also really important to look at some of these disruptive alternative providers that are coming into the market, because these companies are really providing us with a window into what it is that consumers want and also how potentially to deliver it. If you look at a company like Lending Club, we have analyzed Lending Club at Mercator Advisory Group, and what we found is that their appeal to customers, and they're growing very, very rapidly today, their appeal to customers has a lot less to do with pricing and a lot less to do with their credit risk standards than one might assume. Those factors don't necessarily differentiate them that much from traditional financial institutions. What does differentiate them is that they offer a very smooth, very transparent, very well-designed, real-time lending process. And it is enabling customers to very quickly and easily get what they want to get. And so if we ask ourselves, well, why is it that those companies are able to deliver that experience? We come to what I like to call the whiteboard advantage. And strictly speaking, traditional financial institutions have a disadvantage in this respect, because these new entrants that are coming into the marketplace, whether it's a neobank like Moven or Simple or a marketplace lender like Lending Club, all of these providers are fundamentally technology companies, and they are starting with a blank whiteboard and have the ability to design the ideal account opening or lending process for their customers without the burden of any legacy technology. Now, as we discussed, traditional financial institutions don't have that luxury. They have a lot of legacy technology that stands in the way. And what we encourage at Mercator Advisory Group when we have discussions about mobile account opening is to not let that legacy technology stand in the way of the design process for designing the ideal account opening experience for your customers. As difficult as it is, that needs to be set aside, and you need to go back to that blank whiteboard and really start from the ground up and design your process in a way that will make sense for your customers without necessarily building into it any of the assumptions that you might if you start by looking at that legacy technology stack. So if you're able to start with a blank whiteboard and start thinking that way, at the end, once you're ready to implement it, it just becomes an engineering problem, as the CEO of Lending Club is fond of saying. And at that point, there are numerous options for implementing a mobile account opening process and revamping a lot of the core technology you have. But in order to get there, you need to start with the question, how would we design an ideal mobile account opening process if we could start with a blank whiteboard? So to answer that question, we really want to look at a few key best practice areas that we have identified in studying the alternative providers and the few traditional financial institutions that have really figured out mobile account opening, that have implemented the type of process that we believe today's customers are looking for. So we'll walk through each one of these areas, and then Sarah will elaborate on them in a great deal more depth. First one is to optimize for mobile, and I was thrilled to see in the poll results that a majority of financial institutions out there have optimized their websites for a mobile device, and for those that haven't, a majority are planning to do so in the near term. That's great because that is a very critical component to delivering this type of experience. It has to fit well onto a smartphone, onto a tablet, potentially even onto a smartwatch or onto a TV, if you're to believe some of the reactions that the banking industry had to Apple's recently announced product line. There are a couple components to optimizing for mobile. The first is to make sure, obviously, that it fits on the screen. And there's a few different ways to do this. The main division that we see is offering this experience through a native mobile application that's downloaded through an app store to a specific device, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or an Android tablet or an Android phone or even a Kindle tablet. Designing a native mobile app can be a great way for making sure that you're going to deliver a really streamlined experience to your customers. The challenge is to really make sure that you're solving for all customer use cases. A native mobile app is great for an existing customer or for an assisted use case where an employee is helping a customer apply in a branch or in a retail store. The challenge with native mobile applications is that, generally speaking, consumers are not going to be willing to download them simply for the privilege of applying for one of your products. So for that use case, for the self-service use case, we really see mobile web being a better fit. And the good news with mobile optimized web is through HTML and through cascading style sheets and some of the new capabilities available in mobile web browsers, there's a great deal of sophistication that can now be brought to bear within the mobile web channel. And so it's not a disadvantage to design for mobile web. And as a best practice, we encourage you to think about mobile account opening both in a native mobile environment and a mobile web environment. The second step with optimizing for mobile is to make sure that you're simplifying the data entry process as much as you possibly can. There's a few different components to this. The first is to make sure you're challenging all of the assumptions that might be going into that application. If you're simply porting over the application that you're using in your online channel, which may have been ported over from the application that was designed for the branch 25 years ago, there might be a lot of legacy assumptions that are built into that application that aren't necessarily applicable today. So the first thing to do is to look through that application and make sure you're not asking any questions that you don't absolutely need to ask. There's a lot of other ways to gather data today that might be applicable rather than forcing the customer to manually enter that information. The second thing to do is to make sure that you're reducing the amount of manual data entry that the customer has to do. The good news is that there are a lot of alternatives to the keyboard that are available. Obviously, Sarah is going to be showing how camera can be used to optimize the application entry process, and that really does provide a much more seamless customer experience. Customers are used to, particularly millennial customers, using a camera for all kinds of different functions, and so there's a great deal of comfort with that, whereas using a keyboard, particularly for younger customers, they might not be any more comfortable using the keyboard than they are using the camera on the device. So that's a great way to optimize that experience and reduce the amount of manual entry. The other advantage to doing that is it also will reduce the amount of data entry errors that are going in. Speaking as a millennial, I can tell you that I don't spend as much time as I probably should spell checking what I'm typing in on my mobile device as I should, because I trust that the mobile device is going to be able to autocorrect everything that I'm typing in. Well, when I'm typing in my personal identifying information, your application is not going to know how to spell check that. And so there's a great deal of data entry errors that are going to come in through a mobile device. If you can capture a lot of that data by taking a picture of a driver's license or another ID document, you can reduce the amount of data entry errors that are coming in, which then will streamline the remainder of the decisioning and account opening process. Last thing is to make sure that you're being creative with the remaining fields that you need to collect. And by this I mean that for any fields that you need the consumer to type manually into, you want to make sure that you are doing as much as you can to simplify that process for them. So for example, one of the nice usability tweaks that I've seen in some mobile applications is if you have to collect address manually, have the customer put in their zip code first, which is relatively simple to type in, and then do an automatic lookup of their city and state. That can be a very simple tweak that you can make to your application, but it goes a long way towards simplifying that experience for the customer. The next thing to do is to make sure that you are rethinking, again, from an assumption and a process standpoint, risk and compliance. I think there is a sort of outdated assumption that as we move from branch-oriented account opening processes to digital account opening processes, that we are essentially trading on increased convenience for the customer, and we are trading out some of the security and the comfort that we have with a face-to-face interaction. And while that may be true for online account opening, which is something that has been in place at many banks for a few years now, the mobile device actually gives us an advantage in the respect of being able to authenticate a consumer's identity and to do a lot of the fraud and risk management processes better than we might have been able to do online or even in the branch. So there's a lot of things you can do with the mobile device. The first, obviously, is to try to capture a picture of the consumer's identity document. And as we discussed, that can have a great impact on streamlining the user experience, but it also, depending on the solution you select, gives you the ability to authenticate that that driver's license is a legitimate driver's license. And on top of that, you can even layer in the ability to utilize facial recognition technology that is emerging in the market to capture a selfie of the customer and compare that to the image on the identity document, which essentially rebuilds the same level of trust that we would have in a branch environment. In addition, there are a number of other data elements that can be pulled in from the mobile device. There's geolocation, there's other device fingerprinting and other specific data elements that can be pulled off of individual devices that can give us a level of insight into a consumer's risk profile that we might not otherwise get. Finally, the other thing to keep in mind with mobile devices is they're essentially sensors. And as sensors, they can gather a lot of contextual and behavioral data that can be very valuable in terms of assessing a consumer's risk profile. There's a couple interesting examples of this. One of my favorites is one of the things that marketplace lenders have started to do, which is when a consumer is filling out an application, they provide the customer with a sliding bar that they can move back and forth to select the loan amount that they want to request to borrow. What these providers have actually started doing is looking at the consumer's behavior when they grab that sliding bar. Do they immediately move it over to the far right and max out the amount of money that they're trying to borrow, or do they kind of thoughtfully grab it and move it back and forth? This is some very interesting behavioral data that can actually give us a window into the characteristics of the consumer that can inform the credit decisioning process that's going to happen later down the line. So there's a lot of different data elements and risk characteristics that can be gathered through the mobile channel, and that's something that we strongly encourage as a best practice. finally, you want to make sure that you are completely enabling self-service. And again, this goes back to the quote from Mary Meeker. You want to deliver the experience that the customers want, which is fast and easy. And in order to make sure you're doing that, one of the key characteristics to keep in mind is that you don't ever want to force a customer to leave the mobile channel in order to complete the account opening process. There are a number of processes that are in the market today that may accept an application in on a mobile device and may even allow the customer to go through a majority of the process, but at the end, they want the customer to come into the branch to fund the account, or they want the customer to come into the branch to sign a signature card. The process of forcing a customer to leave the channel that they start the process in order to complete the process and actually get the product that they want is a very damaging experience for the customer and for your relationship with them. So in order to completely enable them to stay within the mobile channel and to complete that account opening process, you need to think about every step in that process and how you're going to enable that in a self-service environment. This could be looking at pended applications that maybe require a little bit more information. Instead of forcing the customer to come into the branch or to mail in a copy of their utility bill, why not allow them to take a picture with their mobile device of a recent utility bill and automatically upload that so that the system can continue to process their application without any delays? Account funding is another great example of where we see a lot of breakdowns. In the account funding process, you want to make sure that you streamline that as much as you possibly can so that customers don't drop out before they can actually activate and fund the account. This could be taking a picture of a check or a credit card, really anything you can do to streamline the data entry portion of the account funding process. And then finally, the very cutting edge of where all this is going is to actually be able to activate the financial account once the consumer has been approved for it and funded the account, be able to actually activate it and allow them to utilize it in real time. So the example here is with credit cards. If I'm applying for a credit card on a mobile device and I get all the way through the end of the process, I don't want to have to wait for the credit card to be shipped to me in 3 to 5 days. I want to start using it now. And so today there are capabilities that allow financial institutions to do real-time account activation and even to push over a digital version of that credit card directly into the consumer's mobile wallet from the same account opening session so that they can start using it for their mobile payment behavior right away. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand things back over to Mike.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Alex. And as promised, that brings us to our second and final poll of the afternoon here with us. Same drill. I will read the question and read the answers, and please everyone just sort of weigh in while I'm doing that, and then I'll share the results. So how much of a problem is mobile from an abandoned form? How much of a problem is mobile form abandonment for you? Sorry about that, folks. Hope that's clear. Is it not a problem? Is it a minor problem, a significant problem, or we haven't measured mobile form abandonment? And let's just wait a couple moments and let everyone weigh in, and then we will turn things over to Sarah, and she will take us home. Okay, wonderful. So we haven't measured mobile form abandonment. That was the 56.5% of folks said that, and then 24% said it's not a significant problem. So thank you very much for that, and let me kick things over to Sarah. Sarah, please take it away.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Clark. I head product at Mitek, and today I'll briefly share a bit of information about Mitek. I'll walk through some of the products we have to offer that address some of the market opportunities and challenges that Alex did a great job of outlining. And I'll wrap it up with some product demos, leaving some time for questions and answers. First, about Mitek. Over 4,000 financial service providers have licensed our products. And due to that adoption, our mobile capture user experiences are enjoyed by over 50 million end users. We are the leading innovators with respect to mobile capture. And what I mean by that is the user experience where you can let your end users take a picture in order to make transacting with you easier. At this point, 4 out of the top 5 U.S. financial institutions utilize our MySnap user experience. And what that is it automates image capture for your end users. So that not only ensures that the images snapped are excellent and can be used for quick and accurate data extraction, but it also means that those end users really have a magical moment with respect to the user experience. And I think that that's really interesting and exciting, and I'll be showing you some of that in the demos we have coming up. Among financial institutions, we're best known for our flagship product, which is Mobile Deposit, but we're also the global leaders in utilizing mobile capture to remove friction and solve for some of the identity verification challenges that are present in digital customer acquisition. We have been innovating on user experience excellence with respect to United States driver's licenses and state IDs for many years now, and we do support mobile capture, data extraction, and authenticity verification for those U.S. IDs. But recently, we also acquired a company called ID Checker based out of the Netherlands, and what that has done is it's given us a true global footprint. So at this point, we do support over 3,500 global identity documents, and we support all of those with respect to user experience excellence with mobile capture, data extraction, and authenticity verification. So in looking at our product lines as they relate to supporting digital customer acquisition, there are really 3 that play a role. The first is photo documents, and what that is it's that mobile capture user experience, that magical moment, and that's also the amazing image enhancements that we provide. So through that, you receive clean, sharpened, scanner quality, lightweight images. We also have our PhotoFill product line as well as Photo Verify. So diving a bit into PhotoFill, PhotoFill's job that it does for you is quick and accurate data extraction. So Alex referred to one of the rules of optimizing for the mobile channel as being don't use the keyboard if you don't have to. And PhotoFill solves this problem for you. We support capture of United States driver's licenses and state IDs, global identity documents, as well as a handful of other key U.S. documents such as W-2 bills and funding instruments. And the user experience is the user automatically captures the image, and then the data is quickly and accurately returned back along with those optimized images. So this can be used for pre-fill of forms and can remove friction from the user experience. Removing friction, of course, can profoundly have a positive impact on conversion rates. And also, again, going back to giving users that magical moment can really have a positive impact on user sentiment through having a great user experience. And we've seen that in some of the App Store reviews from users that have experienced PhotoFill as part of an onboarding process. Photo Verify is the 3rd product line that I listed, and this builds upon PhotoFill in terms of getting deeper into the question of identity document verification. So Photo Verify's job that it does for you is it evaluates the authenticity of the identity document. Again, it supports U.S. driver's licenses and state IDs in addition to the 3,500 global identity documents. And specifically with respect to U.S. driver's licenses and state IDs, we have a really differentiated advanced capability as part of Photo Verify, where we can instantly scan the format of the driver's license or the state ID for the presence of an enhanced security feature that's included in the printing process but is invisible to the naked eye. This is really, I think, exciting technology, and what it means is that when Photo Verify Advanced finds the presence of the security feature, we can instantly give you an assured or a definite result as to the authenticity of the driver's license. Photo Verify plays a role in terms of being able to solve for some of the identity verification challenges that can be part of digital acquisition. Alex mentioned allowing customers who might go into appended status be able to proceed through steps to clear that status with low friction through the mobile device. And that's what Photo Verify can allow your end users to do. Imagine instead of having to tell your users to go into a branch to further prove their identity, you can have them just scan their driver's license and get that instant result. Pretty powerful. This slide is showing a simplistic view of a mobile acquisition workflow so that you can see where our products add value in the process. So if you look at the apply step, you can see we have PhotoFill listed there. PhotoFill removes friction, and it should increase or will increase the number of customers that therefore complete the application process. Photo Verify is listed under approval since it can authenticate the authenticity of the ID document. It can help you get more customers through the approval process. Photo Documents and Photo Funding allow end users to take pictures of other types of documents that can ensure that they can seamlessly upload other documents you may need to process and approve their application, and so that they can also fund the account with the least amount of friction possible. So I'm going to get into showing you a few demos of these user experiences. The first demo is going to be a native app. The second will be mobile web, and both of these will show you the PhotoFill product. And then I'll wrap it up with a demo of our Photo Verify advanced capabilities. So demo one is a native app. This is where a user would download an app from the App Store. There it is. So in this case, the user downloaded an app, and you're going to see our MySnap automatic image capture user experience. We're going to start with the driver's license, and it instantly scans the barcode on the back of the driver's license. And we're now going to go to the front of the driver's license, where MySnap will automatically detect when I have the driver's license in ideal conditions to snap the image. We're then going to submit it, and PhotoFill will quickly and accurately return the data from the driver's license along with the enhanced images. This can be used to pre-fill a form, which obviously enhances the user experience significantly. In this example, I might have to submit another type of document in order for my application to be approved. So I used MySnap to do that as well. And here I'm snapping a picture of a check so that I can fund the account without having to type in the routing number or account number myself. So this demo showed you in native a user experience where I entered all the information seen on my driver's license without typing anything on my keyboard, where I submitted a supplementary document and I entered funding information for the account. I didn't have to touch my keyboard a single time. I had 3 magical moments with MySnap where my images were automatically captured and my data quickly and accurately returned. I'm now going to show you a PhotoFill demo in mobile web. So as opposed to native, in mobile web, this means your end user is using a browser, not a downloaded app. And this, of course, can be really important for customer acquisition use cases because customers will naturally go to the browser, Google search what they're interested in, and find the account or service they may want to sign up for. And that's what my example is showing you. I found a checking account through Google that I'm interested in, and I can proceed directly into an application process, again, using my camera instead of typing information. This is our MySnap for mobile web SDK, and I did snap the image. It instantly evaluated it, and I'm now prompted to snap the back image. It, of course, tells me to be sure that the barcode specifically is part of the image, and I'm going to do that. And MySnap for mobile web, although it isn't auto capture, it is instantly evaluating and enhancing the image so that, again, I have a very quick user experience and so that the accuracy is assured. You can see the form has been filled out for me, and again, I took a picture, didn't have to type anything in. That's MySnap for mobile web showing photo fill. The last demo I'm going to show you is Photo Verify. And in this case, I'm again going to use a native app user experience. And here again, I'm going to start with scanning the back of my driver's license. You can see it very quickly grabbed on to the barcode, slightly different user experience, so you can see some different possibilities. And I then scanned the front of my license. That happened very quickly, but what happened there is really quite amazing, where MySnap evaluated the authenticity of the license by reading an enhanced security feature. You can see in the admin console that we provide with our products that it collected a lot of events in that very short amount of time, and it did a very deep analysis using very advanced computer vision. The summary here is that it found the enhanced security feature, and it was able to return an assured result that the license I was using is 100% authentic. So I'm going to stop there. Those are the three demos: Photo Fill for native, Photo Fill for mobile web, as well as Photo Verify Advanced. Thank you. Mike, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. And yes, as promised, we've got about 4 minutes or so for some questions here. So let me go ahead and jump in because we've got a whole bunch of questions here. So first one, let me see here. All right. Will Photo Verify work with international ID documents?
Yes, it does. Photo Verify works for U.S. driver's licenses and state IDs, as well as over 3,500 global identity documents.
Excellent. And a related question, are images of driver's licenses processed on the phone?
I'm not sure exactly what that question means, but I can describe that security is a guiding principle for us. So we do evaluate the video feed on the phone, but we never save or persist any images on the device itself. So it's done in memory so that those images are never stored on the device, and they're securely handled end-to-end.
Wonderful. Thanks. Thank you. All right, here, next question. All right, can these solutions be configured for our brand?
I think that's a question for the Mitek product, so I'll go ahead and grab that again. Yes, our user experience is 100% brandable. That's one of our strengths of our product suite. So the MySnap experiences that you saw in the demo can be configured to melt seamlessly into your native app or your mobile web app.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Sarah. And And yes, I'm sort of just reading out the questions and letting you guys just jump in as you see fit. All right. What is the increase in conversion rate or other quantified ROI for implementing document scanning for onboarding? Increased conversion rate of 20%, for example.
Well, I can take a stab at that one, Sarah, and then you jump in. What I've seen as it relates to the increase in conversion rate, really the best way to answer that is with the existing account opening process that an FI might offer on a mobile device, where are the kind of choke points or abandonment rate the highest? And one of the examples I would give you is during the account funding process, one large regional bank that I spoke with said that they had about 60% of the applications that made it to the account funding process for a new checking account opened through their digital channels, dropping out and abandoning the process, which is astronomically high. And so even if introducing additional optimization like taking a picture of a check or a credit card to help pre-fill that, if that even cuts it down by a third, then you've increased your conversion rate by, I would say 15 to 20%. So it certainly depends on the institution, but the increase in conversion rate can be quite high depending on kind of where the abandonment rate issues are within the process.
Great, thanks, Alex. And that actually does bring us to the top of the hour, and we do try to keep things on schedule, respecting everyone's very busy schedules that they've staked out some time for us today. But we don't want to go over too far. So let me first of all thank Alex and Sarah both for a great hour of discussion, lots of interesting content, and lots of great questions that we haven't been able to get to today. But like I said, we will be following up with anybody that we did not have a chance to respond to in the Q&A. Thanks, everyone in the audience, for being here, of course. Trust me when I say we would not want to do it without you. Please look for an email from us in the next 24 to 48 hours. We will be sending you an email with a link to the recording and also a link to the slides themselves, so that you can check them out in the future at your leisure, and we encourage you to do that. And with that, I will wrap things up. Wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope you will join us again very soon. Thanks so much.